Hi, my name is Fern Busuttil. I'm the Children and Young People's Participation Worker at Somerset CAMH. So my job is to work with young people who've either used CAMH service or are still in treatment at the moment, to help them to shape the service and give us their views to improve the way the service is run, to work on new developments and to bring new ideas and kind of fresh insight to use their own experience so that we can improve the service. People with a range of different needs, so they might have come to the service experiencing anxiety, depression, some young people with more complex mental health needs, and sometimes their families, brothers and sisters. So the reason why we involve children and young people is that it kind of benefits everyone really. As a service, it's helpful for us to know what the people who use the service think. They're the experts, and they usually have the best ideas about how to improve the service. So we kind of want to know what's been helpful for young people who've come through CAMHS, maybe what hasn't been so helpful. And the chances are, if a young person hasn't been happy with one aspect of the service, they've probably already thought about how they can make that better. So for us it's really helpful to have that insight and young people's views. Also for young people it can be really beneficial to be involved in shaping the service. Some young people don't even really know what the service is about when they come to us, so for them to be more involved in sort of what goes on in the background gives them a much better idea of why the service runs the way it does, and it gives them the opportunity to kind of have their voice heard and to really feel that they have some influence, and they really do have influence, you know. I think one of the difficulties initially setting up participation has been that maybe practitioners who've never really thought about young people getting involved in that way before might be a bit concerned for the young people's well-being. They might be worried about how the service could change, or that young people might just want to use it as an opportunity to complain really. So it's really nice seeing them kind of come to the realisation that actually, oh, this is really helpful, that young people have got a lot to say, that they're actually very positive and very kind of solution focused in the way that they approach participation. So Somerset Partnership involves young people in a range of different ways really. It's really good because young people are all different obviously. It's really good for them to have different ways to get involved. So some young people might be quite eloquent, quite good at expressing their views and sharing those with a group of people. For others that can be quite an intimidating experience, maybe working with professionals. So I try to make sure that there are lots of different ways for young people to get involved in CAMHS. And also other children's services have involved young people in different ways, things like developing apps, developing websites, other resources, leaflets, self-help material, and we involve young people in recruitment as much as possible. In CAMHS we're part of Children and Young People's IAP, Department of Health programme, improving access to psychological therapies, and so Somerset CAMHS is part of a Southwest collaborative, and the collaborative has pledged to involve children and young people as much as possible in the service. So we have 3 participation pledges, which are to involve young people in recruitment, training and staff appraisals. So one of our core projects is around involving children and young people in delivering some of the service and in sort of peer support. So we've been doing that in quite an informal way, trying to build that up in different ways. In CAMHS we do a lot of therapeutic groups. So one of the things that clinicians have really encouraged is for young people who've been through a therapeutic group to then be involved in delivering it the second time round or the next time round. So young people might introduce the group, and that can be really beneficial for the young people doing that as well as for those coming to the group. It can really help young people engage with that group, and for those who've been through it, it's a nice finishing off. It also can be really positive, have a really positive impact on self-esteem, on young people's sense of self-efficacy, and it gives them the opportunity to give something back, which often young people are really keen to do. We want to develop that a bit more, so one of the things that we are working on at the moment is developing some psychoeducational sessions for young people and their families who are on the waiting list for CAMHS. So that would be giving them information about what they might expect when they come to CAMHS, also some kind of self-help material to start with, to keep them kind of motivated while they're on the waiting list, and to help them to kind of help themselves really and begin with that sort of recovery process. So we would hope that young people will be involved in delivering those sessions, and on hand to kind of answer questions from a young person's perspective, because young people have said that that's really helpful for them to have, you know, young people their own age, that often it's great to have a professional, but actually young people are much easier for them to engage with, particularly if they're experiencing particular difficulties like maybe anxiety, social anxiety, and finding the experience quite intimidating. I think it makes CAMHS a bit more accessible if there are other young people there to sort of help you in those first stages to access the service. One of the projects that we're going to be developing this year is peer educators, so young people who have been through the CAMHS service and are really passionate about sharing their experience with other young people. Will be going into schools, colleges and medical tuition, where young people with really complex mental health needs might be having their education, and talking about their experiences, talking about mental health, just the question of what is mental health, and really kind of sharing their knowledge about what's helpful, what can be helpful, about how to access help, and really trying to break down that stigma attached to young people's mental health, and get people having a conversation. We involve children and young people in a range of different ways, primarily through a participation group which meets on a monthly basis, and that's a group of around 8 to 10 young people in the 12 to 18 age group. We would hope to include younger children, and that's an area that we want to develop in the future. Young people are also involved in sort of specific projects and one-off pieces of work, so that might be individually or as a group. And some young people who maybe don't really like the group setting might do work from home remotely, working on things like websites, leaflets. We also have young people's representatives on a number of different strategic and operational groups in CAMHS, so things like our clinical effectiveness group and the working group to redevelop our inpatients unit. So it's really important to get young people's views at that level, and to incorporate their ideas into any new developments. If you decide to join us, you'll be moving to one of the most beautiful parts of the country, home to Glastonbury Festival, fantastic food and cider, and with great transport links to Bristol, London, South Wales.